Welcome to Storytime with Reeve and McIntyre.
Hello, everyone.
Hey there! Read by the amazing Amy Sutton.
Thatch the Moon. Do you remember me telling you how my dad couldn't get any work thatching roofs, so I drew an advert for him, and then the famous pop star Lady Frou Frou saw it and asked Dad to make her a thatched costume for her next big concert? Well, he did. And it was a thatch-tastic success. Dad made her a thatched hat, a thatched wig, a thatched dress, and matching thatched shoes. When she performed at the Music Awards dressed in those, she became more famous and popular than ever. Nobody paid any attention to all the other pop stars. Floella Twisty turned up in a hat made of rain, and Millie Zoom arrived as a mermaid on 10-metre-tall gold stilts. But nobody even looked at them. They were all too busy taking photographs of Lady Frou Frou. The next morning, her thatched outfit was front-page news. Lady Frou Frou was so pleased that she hired Dad to thatch her entire stage set and all of the costumes for the Thatch Me If You Can tour. And the tour was so successful that Lady Frou Frou decided to have her house thatched too. It was a huge mansion in Hollywood, USA. And Lady Frou Frou flew Dad and me and Ponty out there to do the work in person. Well, to be honest, me and Ponty didn't help much. Ponty is a dog, so he's not much use at thatching. And Dad said that he didn't need me to help. Lady Frou Frou had hired in a whole army of thatchers to work with him. So while Dad clambered about on the roofs with them, telling them what to do, Ponty and I hung out with Lady Frou Frou. And it was really fun. Lady Frou Frou had so much stuff. She'd been poor like me when she was little, but she'd made so much money from her music that she was able to buy all the things she couldn't afford when she was growing up. So, when she was little, she hadn't had a doll's house, just a cardboard box where her old tatty dolls used to live. So when she got rich, she had the best doll's house maker in the world make her a huge doll's mansion full of perfect little tiny bits of furniture and really beautiful dolls. And when she was a teenager, she couldn't afford a car. So now she had a huge garage crammed with limousines and Cadillacs. She had her own personal airfield at the bottom of the garden where she kept her private jet and her helicopters. She even had her own space shuttle. She got her people to roll it out of its hangar on a giant caterpillar track platform thingy so that I could see it. I was planning to be the first pop star to do a concert in orbit, she said, but I decided to go with the thatching thing instead. Space is boring. Thatching is so much more now. Lady Frou Frou had been a star for so many years that I think she'd forgotten what it was like to just do ordinary things. I think she liked having me around. We played in the swimming pool and went to the beach and went horse riding. We played with the beautiful dolls in that beautiful doll's house. And when we got bored with them, Lady Frou Frou fetched her old dolls and their cardboard box down from the loft and we played with them instead. Sometimes Lady Frou Frou took me with her to parties full of celebrities and movie stars. I didn't know who most of them were, of course, because although Dad could afford a real TV now, we hadn't had the time to watch it. But they knew who I was. Lady Frou Frou would tell them, "This is my friend Lily Hatcher. Lily's dad is thatching my place." And quite a few of them said, "Hey, do you think he'd come and thatch my house when he's done?" At one of these parties, a man with big sideburns and a frilly shirt came up and said, "Hey kid, does your dad have a manager?" I don't think so, I said. What does a manager do?
A manager takes care of business, said the man. Your dad ought to be as famous as Frou Frou herself. Without him, she's nothing but a celebrity hat stand. I want everyone to know about Bill Batcher and his weird roof macrame thing that he does.
It's Hatcher, I said. And it's not roof macrame, it's thatching.
Whatever, said the man. If he ever runs into trouble, get him to call me. I can take care of everything and leave him free to get on with his, thitching.
He gave me a card with his name on it. Sid Sidewinder Slingsby, Creative Management. I put it in my pocket and forgot about it. I didn't like the way he'd called my friend Frou Frou a celebrity hat stand. And I couldn't see why Dad and me would ever need his help. We were friends with the biggest star on the planet. And then came the day when Dad gave a final twist to the horn of one of the unicorns on Lady Frou Frou's roof, climbed down his ladder and said, there, finished. And it looked brilliant. All that new golden thatch glimmering in the Hollywood sunshine. I'd never seen so much thatch before. Nobody had. Lady Frou Frou's house was the biggest thatched structure in the whole world ever. You can find it in that year's Book of World Records under Thatched Structure in the Whole World Ever, Biggest, The. It's great, Dad, I said, and I told him about all those other people who'd asked me if he'd thatch their houses too. You could stay on in Hollywood, I told him. You could be Bill Hatcher, Thatcher to the stars. I liked that idea because I thought it would be really fun to stay on there and be friends with Lady Frou Frou and do stuff together. But Lady Frou Frou didn't think it was a good idea at all. Her eyes went as cold as blue metal when I said it. Oh no, she said. Don't you remember that exclusive contract you signed? You're my personal thatcher, Bill Hatcher. You thatch for me and nobody else. She snapped her fingers, and one of the helpers who was always hanging around came hurrying over and presented Dad with 2 first-class plane tickets. I think it's for the best if you just go home, said Lady Frou Frou. I've paid you pretty well for all this thatching. Take some time off. Retire. Spend some time with the kid. I didn't like being called the kid, and I didn't like the way Lady Frou Frou was talking to my dad. She tried to hug me as I stomped out after him, but I shrugged the hug off and shouted, You are nothing but a celebrity hat stand. Your outfits are better than your songs. I meant to hurt her feelings, and I think it did, because on the way to the airport, I had a text from her on the new mobile phone she'd brought me. Hey, Lily, it said. I didn't mean to upset you. It's not always easy being a world-famous hyperstar. Let me know how I can make it up to you. Frou. Kiss, 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 kiss. I didn't reply, just snuggled closer to Dad in the back of the big car. We don't need Lady Frou Frou, I said. There are loads of people who will want you to thatch for them. But you heard what she said, Lily, said Dad. I signed that contract. I wish I'd read it a bit more carefully. If it really means I'm not allowed to work for anybody else, well, I don't know what I'll do. I can't just retire. I'd be so bored. Thatching is what I do. I was born to thatch. I thought about that. I suppose if I'd thought hard enough, I would have realised that all I had to do was phone up Lady Frou Frou and tell her that if she wanted to put things right, she had to let Dad thatch again. But I was still too upset with Lady Frou Frou to even think about calling her. Then, when I was emptying out my pockets ready to go through the security thing at the airport, I found something I'd forgotten about. It was that card that Sid Sidewinder Slingsby had given me at the Hollywood party. I remembered how he'd said he would be able to sort out trouble for Dad and let him get on with his thatching. Dad needs a manager, I thought. and the only manager I knew was Mr. Slingsby. There was an email address printed on the back of the card, so before we went on the plane, I sent Mr. Slingsby a message. And when we got home to our own little thatched cottage, there was another massive car parked in the street outside, and Mr. Slingsby himself was waiting on our doorstep. Dad and I were tired after flying all the way from Hollywood. Mr. Slingsby must have been tired too, but he didn't show it. He blew into our house like a March gale.
"You did the right thing calling me in," he said. "I've been watching your progress, Bill Hatcher, and I like what I see. You're going to be big, much bigger than you could ever be if you were stuck working for Frou-Frou."
"But I am stuck," said Dad.
"I signed a contract which says I can only thatch for her." "Ha!" said Mr. Slingsby. "Let's see this so-called contract."
I ran and fetched the contract. Mr. Slingsby looked closely at it, and then he put on a special pair of spectacles for reading small print and looked at it even more closely.
He said, "Ha! You call this a contract? Sidewinder Slingsby can get you out of this in a flash, and all I ask in return is that you sign a new contract with me. Why, I'm going to make you the most famous thatcher in history. Frou-Frou may be the one who put thatching on the map, but you're going to take it to the next level. And you're going to need some top quality management, and that's where I come in. Sign here."
And he pulled out a fat new contract from his pocket and handed Dad a fat gold pen to sign it with. Mr. Slingsby was as good as his word. Pretty soon, Dad was free to thatch roofs for anyone who wanted him to. And everyone wanted him to. Thanks to Lady Frou-Frou, thatching was fashionable. There was too much work for Dad to do on his own, so Mr. Slingsby helped him to set up his own company, Thatch Co. Dad did the designs, and other thatchers did the actual thatching. Then Dad would come along at the end and tweak the new thatch into his trademark bird and animal shapes. Soon, weasels and ouzels, water voles and wheat ears perched on the roof ridges of thatched skyscrapers and thatched football stadiums all over the world. Dad was voted Thatcher of the Year by Traditional Roofer magazine. He was asked to appear on TV. He had his own show, Bill Hatcher's World of Thatch, and he was the chief judge on the Great British Thatch Off. Dad ran Thatch Co. from a thatched office block in the business district, and I went to a smart new thatched school. But every night we came home to our old house. It wasn't cold anymore. The fire burned merrily in the new wood-burning stove. Ponty lounged about in his new deluxe thatched dog kennel. We were living in a thatched lap of luxury. The only trouble was, it was a bit boring. Dad spent all his time in his office having meetings with his thatching teams or talking to Mr. Slingsby, who was forever coming up with new ways to make money out of thatching. He often worked late, so I had to go and hang around at Thatch Co. until his meetings were finished. Then we'd go out for dinner at some expensive thatched restaurant with some of Dad's new rich friends, but all they wanted to talk about was thatching and where Dad got his ideas from, and they weren't interested in me at all. I miss the old days when it was just me and Dad and Ponty. I even miss Lady Frou-Frou. Once, while I was hopping channels on the TV looking for something to watch that wasn't about thatching, I saw an interview with her. She was trying to move on from her thatched look. She was dressed as a porcelain teapot with her face painted blue and white and singing a song called Breaking China. But nobody was interested in her new look or her new songs. They just kept asking her about her thatching phase. I felt a bit sorry for her. I remembered what fun it had been, going swimming with her, or just mucking around with that old cardboard box doll's house of hers, or trying on her old stage costumes. But I didn't miss her enough to ring her up. I was still cross about the way she'd treated us. Thatch Co. grew bigger and bigger. Soon, Dad had to open new branches in other cities. Before long, when I looked out of my bedroom window, I couldn't see a single roof that wasn't thatched. And it was the same in every other city. I watched it on our big new telly. The thatching of the Eiffel Tower, the thatching of the Golden Gate Bridge, the thatching of the Taj Mahal and the Great Pyramid. Marshy countries became rich, growing huge crops of reeds to feed the thatching craze. Lady Frou-Frou's Hollywood mansion wasn't the biggest thatched structure in the world anymore. That record had been broken loads of times. It was strange and a little bit frightening to think that I'd started all this just by writing Dad's name on that chalkboard. The whole world had gone thatching crazy. And then something terrible happened. Nobody knew where they came from. I suppose they must have been flying through space for millions of years, flapping their way across the silent blackness between the worlds. Nobody saw them coming. All those satellites and observatories and radio telescopes watching the skies, and no one suspected a thing until they arrived. I suppose that's because satellites and observatories and radio telescopes are run by sensible scientists who use them to look for asteroids and supernovas and black holes and things. Nobody had ever thought to keep a lookout for chickens. Giant space chickens, a whole flock of them, clucking and flapping their way between the stars, looking for planets where they could nest and lay their giant space chicken eggs. Their beady chicken eyes peered down and saw the lovely golden thatch which covered every rooftop. But of course, giant space chickens don't know anything about thatch. They thought they were looking at nests, huge, each one just right for a giant space chicken to sit on. And that's where the trouble really, really started. But I'll tell you about what happened next in the next episode.
Thatch the Moon by Philip Reeve and Sarah McIntyre. Read by Amy Sutton. Music by Sarah Reeve. Find more Reeve and McIntyre books and fun activities at jabberworks.co.uk. Stay tuned for the next episode of
Thatch the Moon.